Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you to Aditi's debrief today. At GMAT Viz, we try to bring you inspiring success stories of our students and GMAT aspirants who have done amazingly well on the GMAT so that you all can get inspired and believe in yourself that you can also do it one day. And today we have one such amazing success story of Aditi who has broken the stigma, the thought process behind people saying that, you know what, in order to do amazingly well on GMAT, especially the quant section, you need to be an engineer, you need to have a strong quant background. She's someone who is from a non-engineering background but has improved her score all the way from a quant 80 to an 88, nearly perfect score, I would say. I'm sure like if she tries a little more, she can definitely get to the perfect score as well. Not that she's willing to do that anymore, but she has broken that stigma and has given hope to a lot of students who are struggling with quant, who are having a score of around 78, 79, 80 in quant, not able to break that barrier to actually go for the biggest number possible. So without any further ado, I would like to invite Aditi to the stage so that she can talk through about her journey and how she made that happen. So a warm welcome to you, Aditi. How does it feel to kind of finally ace the GMAT with a 695 and an amazing score of 88 on quant?
Hi, Piyush sir. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to GMAT Club as well. It feels very relaxing now that I'm on the other side of it, and it's been a grueling but really rewarding journey for me. And I'm very, very glad that I've taken that journey along with you. But I'm excited to share about it, and I'm really happy that I can, potentially help a lot of people like me.
So it's like more like my first question that I always ask. Like technically it's the second now, but I always want to like understand your feeling when you saw that 695 flashing on the screen. Like how did it feel when you were there in the center, seeing that score in front of you?
Oh my God, I have to tell you about this because I think after my last, so I did my verbal in the end. On my last question, I had about a minute and a half, and I was fairly done at that point, and I clicked on submit, and I just closed my eyes. This was the third time I was writing it. I refused to. I wanted to just stay in that moment. With all your exams, you basically have a calm, relaxed phase. After you write the exam, you have a couple of days not to think about it. GMAT isn't like that, right? So I took that 30 seconds, and then when I opened my eyes, I genuinely could not believe it. Like it was just something that I never ever expected I would get. And I immediately stood up and I realized I was creating kind of like a hindrance for the other people. So then my examiner quietly like pushed me out of the room. But yeah, true story. I could not believe it. I closed my eyes, I waited, and then I realized that I had gotten a good score.
No, true, true. Like I can totally relate to the entire emotion, especially
Yeah,
having worked with you. I can totally understand the
yeah.
emotion that you would go through. So great
Yes,
job, Aditi. Great job. Let's start with the introduction. Let people
sure.
know more about you. Like what is that you do? And yeah, just a quick introduction with that.
Sure. So I basically I'm from Bangalore, India. I've
Mhm.
born and brought up here, did my schooling here. I am a finance professional currently, which means that I did commerce in my 11th and 12th. I did a BCom, and then now I work at Razorpay. I'm into core finance. A little bit about my educational background, and one daunting factor for me was the fact that the last time I did math was the 10th grade. And just like quant, hence, quant was something that was really anxiety driven for me for the longest time. But yeah, apart from GMAT, apart from my work and everything, I'm also a dancer. I am a Bharatanatyam dancer. I've been dancing for over 19 years now. Yeah, so that's something about myself.
Oh, that's really great to know. So let's start with the main part of the session where we talk about a GMAT journey. So for all the users, again, I am just the moderator here. You guys can feel free to go ahead, ask your questions to Aditi. It's your day today. I'm just gonna talk about some of the important aspects and put the questions as you guys ask. So keep it as a open-ended AMA also if you want. Like feel free to ask your questions. But we have a little bit of structure around how basically Aditi went about the entire journey. So what I've thought of is that we'll cover the entire journey in basically three parts, four, like five parts primarily. Main three parts will be root cause analysis and how she understood that what she needs to get to kind of a 695 from a 615. Then we'll break down the journey into two-part journey, part one and part two. So part one is when she improved from 615 to 665, and then the part two was like 665 to 695. I know like the title of the brief says that she improved from 615 to 695 in 2 months, but it was pretty much like a 1 month journey because the last 1 month, the part two, she was hardly studying. But we still said, okay, yeah, 2 months is the entire time frame. Let's mention that. But most of the improvement and everything happened in part one. Part one is the more crucial part, but part two also has a very significant role to play in the entire thing. We talk about timing strategies and some additional tips as well. So as I said, basically a 615 when like Aditi scored that. A quant was 80, 83 in verbal, and data insights was 78. And he improved on all, she improved on all three areas, 88 in quant, which was the biggest jump overall. But the quant, like if you can see, verbal was also like the 94th percentile, an amazing score, and DI was also around the 90th percentile. And three phases, like three phases to the journey. Most of you are looking at the 695, but I feel the focused upskilling, which we did from 615 to 665 was the main thing. And the last leg was just about developing the right mindset, which we are definitely going to go deep into. So let's go back again to the videos itself. So Aditi, what changed? Like when did you, let's start with the beginning. Like what changed in the first leg? Like when you scored the 615, what happened after that? What was the reflection that you did? What did you realize from that and all? Yeah.
Sure. So my journey to the 615 was kind of grueling because I think my entire mindset was that, I was from a non-quant background. So I never had a structured approach, I would say, sir. I would study. I would, of course, I had the OG with me. I had all of the review books as well. But uh, there was no forethought on how I wanted to structure my study. I am a very hard worker, I'll give myself that, but just on what to do when and um, how to structure my entire preparation journey was just something I completely lacked. And of course, owing to the fact that the last time I had solved something on paper was pretty much when I was like in my mid teens, like 15, maybe 14, 15, I just did not realize that my methods were a little outdated. And so, I mean, of course, I didn't want to just not take up the exam. I didn't want to base all of my assumptions on nothing. So I
Mhm.
went ahead and I wrote my exam the first time. And I realized that, okay, like I know I have the rigor to maybe solve and get something great, but I just don't know how to. I had to sort of accept that, okay, I need some sort of structured help. And that's when I reached out to you to sort of start my journey. So from then on, I think we had our initial conversation where you pretty much said the same thing that, okay, I can sense that you are doing fairly okay, but you just don't have a very structured methodology to solve each kind of sum. We obviously spent some time analyzing my report,
Mhm.
score report of the
Scores.
615. We figured out that, in quant was, of course, you had mentioned it right from the start, was the fact that quant would be my biggest jump. Like if at all I was
Mhm.
going to improve something, it had to be the quant, and it was going to be the quant, even though I didn't believe it at that point in time. You were fairly and reasonably assured that, okay, she is going to do very, very decent in quant. So I think when we analyzed our report, we figured out that I was taking a lot of time for each question. I mean, a lot in terms of like 3.5 to 4 minutes for each question. And you
Mhm.
saw a lot of potential there for me. We kind of sat and saw that word problems was something that I really, really was weak at. And
Mhm.
we targeted just exactly solving on those weak points. In the sense that, like, I want to pick out some details here that if I had to solve a percentage sum, I would go back, like naturally, I would go back to my original method of solving, okay,
Mhm.
percentage A to B, then to C, and then find out the difference. It was something so simple, I just didn't see it. And when I started working with you, it was like you made me see that, okay, yeah, in ninth standard or 10th standard, you would have to follow this process because you would have to ingrain that sort of system in your head. But now you're evolved from it, and you don't need to rely on these methods, and there's something so much quicker and so much faster, and you have the ability to solve it like that. So I think so many of these things we worked on that gave me so much conceptual clarity, made me understand that okay, I don't need to go back to my step by step approach. I have the insight and the logical ability in me to see it from point A to point 5 within a span of 10-15 seconds. And when you made me see that, it opened up like crazy amounts of freedom for me. Like it was just endless at that point. I was like, okay, it's exciting now to solve font. It's not boring and it's not stressful and it's not anxiety causing. I think that was a big initial change for me.
I think a lot of
I
people, what they do is they think of quant as math, right? Like you go
yeah.
back to, like as you rightly said, that in 9, 10 the way you looked at math was like very algebraic, very mathematical. You write down all the equations and everything on paper, and that's something which makes you slow. You don't realize that even GMAT gives us a hint in their scorecards. They say real context. People don't really take that as real context. They take it as like a proper math algebra based question. So that's what I think is the biggest difference that needs to be kind of brought about, that you really don't need to be from a math background. And I have a question from a student. I'll just show it over here. Slightly weird question, I
I
would say, but
was.
yeah, like I'm sure he's looking at some confidence from you. Yeah.
No, no, for sure. I was definitely, and I would have to give you a very fun story. In the 10th standard, I wanted to desperately choose math for my 11th and 12th, but uh, I spent my entire year dancing and pretty much could not make the cut to get into the math of 11th and 12th, but yet still I am here today with an 88 in quant. And I think that truly owes to the fact that GMAT is not so much about your calculus, your trigonometry, your algebra, and your math skills, mathematic skills as such. I never knew that. Very honestly, I
Mhm.
didn't realize it. I in fact didn't realize it to the fullest degree even after getting my 665. And I think it's so much more about just simple common logical sense, which really, sir, really worked a lot to ingrain in my head, more than me itself. And I'll, as the conversation goes, we'll probably share a lot of funny anecdotes there. But yeah, I was never a very top of the rank student in math for sure.
But yeah, it's more about logic, I think. Like that's what you said. Like when you look at things logically. So if again, I don't have your first name here, so I'll just call you for your username CN. So if you have a logical brain, you think logically about things, you can master GMAT. Obviously, you just have to kind of approach it the logical way as well. So I'll just share a few slides just for the users to kind of understand the root cause analysis that we did. Because see, every person is unique. We don't never believe that two individuals are same. Like we have so many students, everyone has their own stories, their own journeys, and everyone there has their own strengths and weaknesses. So when we looked at like Aditi's scorecard, just what Aditi was talking about, so what we saw was that in the quant 80 attempt, she had spent a lot of extra time on word problems and permutation questions. So if you see over here, there are these so many questions on which around approximately 3.5 minutes or above were spent. And most of these questions were from the topics word problems and permutation combinations. So it was very clear that these are the topics where process wise we have to work on. But there was another observation that we made, that since two out of the first three questions kind of went wrong, and GMAT quant specially punishes you if you make too many mistakes in the first three questions. So the overall difficulty level of the test was low, which basically means that diagnosis of concept gaps become tough, because most of the questions that you see here were like easy level questions. Some of the questions that you see here were like easy level questions. Some of the questions that you see here were like understand exactly which areas the strengths and weaknesses actually lied. So to do the further analysis, we asked her to take some diagnostic quizzes, and in the diagnostic quizzes also we realized that word problems were time consuming. So process is what we needed to change overall, and that's what we decided, that we need to learn better methods. And when we did some classes, I also saw that like because of time pressure and everything, and this is something which everyone I think will relate with this, who is a GMAT aspirant and has been studying for GMAT, that when you have time pressure, you start rushing, you start making silly mistakes, and you cut corners on reading the question, and you start jumping to solve. And these were the areas that we had to work on. So obviously, like as Aditi said, that first thing we picked up was like some of the methods related to percentage. But yes, what else changed, Aditi? Like just percentage, I'm sure is a important area. But what else kind of changed in your quant approach? Like how did you go about planning the studies? Like focusing on these word problems, but like how did you go about planning it, and what else changed?
Sure. So I'll tell you, I mean, of course, I'll tell everybody else over here, sir, of course, knows. Every class that sir structured for me was beforehand. He would tell me what topic we're going to focus, and he and I sort of kind of knew that okay, the baseline is fine, but it's also about how you are approaching each kind of question on top of that. Like there were many sessions where sir would maybe throw me an initial DST sum or a work rate and time sum, and I would just spend a lot of like, and I really like that about him, where he would stop teaching, put his pen down, and allow me like 5 or 6 or 7 minutes to solve. And in that time, he would analyze what and where I'm going wrong. And I think through that process, we realized that I needed to learn when I need to plug in numbers, when I need to actually solve for the question, when I need to cut down on 10 steps and make it like, two is enough for this kind of a sum. Maybe a compound interest sum. I didn't know the allegation methodology, which Sir really taught me and really, really saved a lot of time for me. And I also think we worked immensely on probability and PNC.
Mhm.
It was always a very big challenge for me. And simply because I was daunted. I never learned it properly. And when Sir told me and how to approach it, it just seemed a lot more simple. We laid out sort of, okay, this is the kind of sum that comes. Close your eyes and use this kind of approach because it works. So that really gave me a lot of comfort and confidence. So from then on, it not only gave me conceptual clarity, it also gave me the comfort that okay, this is any kind of sum that comes or is thrown at me, I have a structured approach in my mind. And structure always helps with your anxiety levels. At least for me personally, if I knew I could tackle something in a structured approach, it just made it easier. It's okay if I took maybe 30 seconds extra to arrive at that approach. Once I realized, okay,
Mhm.
maybe this is how to solve it, after that it was a cakewalk. So I think we worked a
Yes.
lot on, of course, all of the quant topics, may it be like DST, work and rate, also the men and women kind of questions in work rate and
Mm.
time. Those were very, very
Yeah.
challenging.
Easily
Too
eat
many
up 3 to 4
numbers,
minutes of your time.
too many numbers, too many things happening. I was always really taken aback. But of course, you really, really dumbed it down for me, taught me. It was easier after that. And also one major area, I mean, I know we'll come to it eventually, but it's also data sufficiency. It really, really helped me. So yeah, that basically changed in my
So what
quant.
what changed in data sufficiency? Like again, DS is like the most critical area in data insights. Like unless you score well on that, there's no way you are scoring high on DI. But what changed in DI for you?
Yeah. So in data sufficiency, I think I never caught what the approach was. For me, the approach was itself not there. So I used to always look at data sufficiency as two questions to solve, because it was two, you have two prompts and then
Mm-hmm.
you'll
Two
have to choose,
sentences. Yeah.
right? Yeah, two
Mm-hmm.
sentences. So I used to always solve A, then solve B. But that's not at all the point of what DS is, right? I mean, I realized it later when you started teaching me, but I think I understood the approach, understood on how to cut out all the fluff. There's a lot of unnecessary information that's usually provided in data sufficiency. And in fact, so many of the other kinds of sums as well, like MSR, TPA, there's a lot of unnecessary information that GMAT sort of tricks you with and ensures they put it in because they want to confuse you, and it's your job to cut out the noise, focus on what's really, really necessary. And I think we practice a lot of that, not just with data sufficiency but also with other DI sums. And more than anything, I think I used to always spend considerable amount of time rechecking my answers, and building confidence in your option is something that I really learned. If you have a structured approach, if it's fail proof, and I mean, if it's foolproof and you've stuck by it, then there's just no reason to spend an extra minute or two in just checking your process. I think that also really, really helped me.
So basically, stopping rechecking, like once you answer the question and then you trust yourself and move ahead. That is very
Yeah,
important.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So main thing that for everyone like who is viewing this interview and with Aditi, the main thing you have to understand is Aditi did not talk about the usual stuff, right? That okay, you know what, you failed, you go back and do more practice questions, do more and more practice, do more and more questions, and all of that. What she focused on is you need to focus on your approach, you need to focus on the methodology, get the method right, and things fall into place. A lot of people, and then please say a yes if you have done that yourself, a lot of people there go back, like go to step is okay, I don't get a good score, I'll just do too many questions, I'll do more questions, more and more questions, more and more questions on GMAT Club. Or maybe like again, GMAT Club is a great resource, you can definitely get amazing questions from there, and we also use that during our preparation. But what is important is that you're not just blindly practicing questions. You need to identify exactly what your root causes are, where are you going wrong, what are the mistakes that you're making, and act on them systematically, as Aditi said. So those are things which are very important for all of you, everyone, to kind of focus on. So let's talk a little more about like the mocks as well, the tests as well. So one question I have from Gaurav, he says, how did you decide the order of the sections basis your strengths or weaknesses first?
Hi Gaurav. I think how I went about it was yes, on my strengths, my biggest weakness was quant, and mentally I do better when I have the most difficult phase of the exam out of the way. And I have a lot of energy in the first, when I'm entering my exam, I am filled with positivity. So that's why I decided to do quant first. So my order was quant, DI, and then verbal. Verbal last simply because it was easy. It's always been an easier section for me personally, and I don't find it too taxing to read a lot of sentences or paragraphs. That's just something personal to me, so I think that's how I came up with my order. Well, I did it, and in fact in the mocks I also tried and tested around with other combinations. I always found this particular combination to be more suited for me. It just made me calmer. I was comfortable with it, so I didn't really want to change and play around on the exam.
That makes sense. And I always say that to students that make sure you don't follow like a set order. Just make sure you experiment it with first and see
Yeah.
which one works best for you. Because now that there are three sections on GMAT with GMAT focus, there are multiple orders possible. And every one has its own merits and demerits. Obviously,
Yeah.
have a thinking, have a strategy around it. As Aditi said, that she is the kind of a person who would want to get the hardest section first, so that she can use her energy later on, like less energy. Also, she can do well on the easier section for her. So that kind of thinking you need to definitely have in place, but just play around still and see what kind of helps. Okay, I have another question from Malika. So she says, how did you remove your anxiety before the exam? I gave GMAT a while ago and I kept getting visuals of that. How did you gain confidence to give it a second time?
Oh my God. I am almost getting flashbacks because of this sentence. Yeah. But yeah, Malika, I feel like it really, really was a lot of work for me to cut out anxiety. And I think Piyush sir and even Sunita ma'am, it really, really helped me a lot in that process because I struggle with my self-esteem and self-confidence issues. And I think when I first met sir, the first question he asked me was, you told me you're a non-engineer. How does that affect your self-esteem? Point blank, that was the first question. And he understood from the get-go that, okay, more than, yes, we'll have to work probably 50-60% on conceptual clarity and structured approach and everything, but the rest of the 40% has to be an attitude change and shift from her end. And I feel like I did a couple of things. Meditation really helped me as a person. It makes me calm and collected. It makes me feel a little grounded as well as an individual. And after that, I think also anxiety kind of stems from lack of clarity. So once I started preparing with GMAT Wiz, it became a lot better for me in terms of exam anxiety, in terms of time pressure and everything. But yeah, I would definitely suggest some meditation, some time off, not thinking about GMAT, not thinking about the exam, relaxing, doing something fun. Need not even be something you really enjoy doing. Some mindless activity really, really helps, and it helped me as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes taking the foot off the pedal is also important, right? Like I remember
Yeah.
Aditi's like the live test that we did. I remember very
Yeah.
clearly. Generally, like when I do that live test with students, I generally don't interrupt. And there was a moment when I stopped it. I paused the test in between. I asked her to pause the test in between, and I asked her that, according to you, how far behind or ahead are you of the time? And she told me that she feels she's around 5 minutes behind the time. On the contrary, she was 2 minutes ahead of the time at that point of time. So that's the level of anxiety I've seen her, like Aditi, like who scored a Quant 88, Malika herself having in the test. Because when you start that mock test now, like you have very high expectations from yourself that if I don't do well in this mock, this is gonna be like the judgment day, like kind of a judgment for me to kind of understand whether I'm ready for the real thing or not. And I told Aditi on that day also that you're so capable. Why are you putting yourself under so much stress? So I think it's also about the stress that you put yourself under. So definitely meditation, as Aditi said, definitely helps. And sometimes taking the foot off the pedal. Like Aditi scored a 665 in 1 month time. She was capable of getting a 695. In fact, I personally feel she's capable of getting a 705 plus easily. She was capable of getting that score on that very day when she got a 665. But it was definitely a little bit of anxiety, that stress which was there. And on that day, she got a 82 in Quant. She improved her score in Quant, but not like amazingly great improvement didn't happen. And in fact, the next attempt which happened, the entire 30-point jump that came from Quant itself overall. So that jump of 665 to 695, again, Aditi, you tell us like better, like in that 1 month, how much preparation did you do? Like the last 1 month, 665 to 695, how much prep did you do?
Yeah, I don't know how many people will believe it. I mean, I myself can't really make sense that much out of it. But I didn't study at all. So I remember November mid was when I gave the 665 attempt. And at that point, I was like, Acha, okay, let me just book another exam. I didn't tell anybody. I remember booking the exam the day I got out of the 665 attempt. My mother and me, we were in the auto. I booked my exam right then and there. And I told myself, see, I know, I mean, I also work a full-time job, so I knew my work was going to be very busy for the next 1 month. So I told myself then and there, it's fine. The only thing that will happen is you're going to get better, or you already have a baseline, a 665 secured. And from then on, there was just no need for me to take that stress. And in terms of preparation, I would have maximum prepared for all three sections. I'm not even talking about just quant or verbal. Maybe about 5 times from November mid till December mid when I actually took the next attempt. Um, and I didn't solve a sum, didn't read a book. I remember in the morning of the exam as well, I had taken a leave, so I went on a really long walk. It just felt very unnatural for me to go to an exam like this. But
Yeah.
when I did, I think it was totally worth it. So I am really, really urging everybody to sort of take that day off before the exam to, rewire your brain, sort of come back into terms of what actually matters at the end of the day. Stress and your anxiety and your mental health is so much more important than any exam that comes across your way in life. And I think knowing that it's not that important really helps you ace the exam.
Yes. And that's very critical. People don't understand the importance of this aspect. When I tell them that you should study less, they think I'm joking. And I was just telling Aditi before we started our interview that she's the second person who has done something similar. Not just the second, in fact, the third person who has done something similar in just last 30 days. I have another student who we are interviewing tomorrow. She improved her score from mid 500s to all the way to 695. And in the last attempt, that when the score actually came to 695, before that, in the entire 1.5 month, around 2 month period, she only studied for 3 days, only for
Yeah.
3 days. And before that, like so much of studying happened, but like she got a 675, not a bad score before that. But yeah, like she was not able to reach her full potential. And there's another student of mine from Paris. Again, I'm not getting too much in detail, but there's similar story. Like hardly studied for 1 day in last 8 months, and his score improved by
Wow.
90 points,
Oh,
90 points in a
wow.
single shot. Okay, so sometimes if you're capable, again, please don't take it otherwise that you don't need to study for GMAT. Okay, GMAT doesn't happen by luck, just to be clear. All these people I'm talking about, including Aditi, had done the hard work, had the potential of getting to that score on the previous attempt itself. But sometimes when your anxiety is stopping you from getting there, sometimes taking the foot off the pedal also is important. Taking the pressure off is also important. And yes, meditation can help. As Aditi said, keep less pressure on yourself with respect to, let's say, the results that you're expecting and all of those things, that okay, I already have a score, it's only going to get better. That positive reinforcement is also something which is super critical.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little about verbal. I think I have a question from a student also, Arunya, about we didn't cover verbal at all. Again, improvement wise, it was just 2 points. It seems like that, but score of 85 in verbal is obviously a dream of a lot of other students also. So, how did you manage verbal on your side?
Sure. So with respect to verbal, I think uh, like I'm very grateful to have had fairly good education with respect to my English. So reading was never an issue for me. Like reading through the RC or reading through a CR, that wasn't the problem. But I think where I actually worked a lot on was understanding what is being asked, especially with some CR questions. It's very tricky to know if they're asking to strengthen, if they're asking a strengthener, or if they're asking a weakener. And when I started
Mhm.
working with ma'am, she was very quick to point out that, okay, see, I know you're able to manage fairly well, like you're able to, with your hunch, with your understanding of English, maybe this sounds right, this does not sound right, and that's why you're choosing this answer. But there is no 100% clarity in, okay, this is why this is wrong. And of course, elimination is the biggest key to success in verbal. That's what ma'am has always told me, and that's what I've also come to realize. So learning how to eliminate each option was something I really worked on. Knowing why something is wrong is very important to arrive at the correct answer. And even with RC and even with CR, I think I spent a lot of time in reading every sentence, forming a small inference, then reading the next two sentences, and then making sense of it. Making sense of it not in English, maybe in Hindi, maybe in Kannada, maybe in whichever language that you feel you can sort of really ingrain in your head. But it's important to pause after every sentence. At least that's what really helped me. And understand what they are saying and where they are getting at. With respect to RC, I think I sort of tricked my brain to make it interesting. History and science is not really something that really something I find very interesting. But a lot of RCs, and I think 2 out of 4 RCs that I had got was actually on these topics. But what I kind of tried to do was trick my brain to make it interesting. And when you find something interesting, you automatically remember it better. You automatically try to relate to it a bit in a better manner. So I think with verbal, that's what I did. And of course, with practice as well, one thing that I really used the GMAT Wiz platform was for verbal practice. I think it was very easy that they have these 5 question practices, 10 question practices. So on the way to work, I would use it. On the way back from work, I would use it. It just, since it was not so heavy for me, it was easier to practice verbal on the go, and something that I could do at any time and still do well at it. So that's how verbal was essentially for me.
Great, great, great. So basically, focus on what you're reading, understand, draw inferences. Don't go blank into the options, thinking that okay, I'll just eliminate things. I will like have a understanding before you go to it, so that you're able to
Right,
eliminate more
right.
confidently and answer the questions. Great work.
Absolutely.
So yes, Aditi, thank you so much for all the great tips around the different sections and everything. Any other tips you want to share with the users for your journey that you feel will help them kind of get to the score you have and possibly be here someday? Yeah.
Uh, Of course, I think, as I've been saying, conceptual clarity is a must. Even though you know how to solve things, you should, I think, internally question, is this the best way to solve this? Is this the most efficient way? And is there a better way to do something? And if there is, it's not very difficult and it's not very time consuming to learn it. So I feel like we should, I mean, it's better to spend time on learning the best possible methods. And B, yes, hard work is important, and yes, practice will really help in getting you that score. But it's also important to practice smartly, like sir also mentioned rightly. Like, don't keep just doing quantums of sums, 100 sums in a week, etc. It's also about what kind of sums you're solving. That's also very important, I feel. Apart from all of this, I think, with respect to, I just want to talk a little bit about the practice that we did with DI, especially like MSR and TPA. Two-part analysis was just of course, I still believe is the most difficult kind of question in the DI, simply because there's just so much text and there are two different kinds of answers that you have to come up with. Like you have to sort of essentially solve two sums. And sir made me see, and while I was solving, I was reading but not understanding. And I think that's the kind of intimidation that the entire DI section gives us. Like you read something and
Mhm.
you're anxious that you're reading and you're not understanding, and then you're spending like 2 extra minutes to sort of process that information, process your anxiety along with it. But I was able to sort of pause, make sense of TPA, and after you cut out all the unnecessary information, it's very simple to come up with the answer. So I think with DI, it's important to read everything, but make sure you only stick and remember the important points. Um, but yeah, also it's a very fun process. I think once you see how challenging and how exciting GMAT is, I think it makes it all the more enriching to go through this process. I did it so many times, and yes, it was a very, very challenging and sad kind of phase in my life. I was always tensed,
Hmm.
but I think it really helped me sharpen my mind. It made me quick on my feet. It made me more motivated as an individual. It made me, increase my mental fortitude a lot. So I'm very grateful I went on this journey. And yes, I really hope all of you do as well. And I'm sure you'll all come out with flying colors.
I think that's very very important to have fun with GMAT. Basically, the ups and downs both will come. There will be days
Yeah,
you'll do well. There will be days you won't. Important thing is to believe in yourself and uh, don't take too much pressure. So that's something which is very very critical. So thank you so much, Aditi, for being with us today and sharing your
of
journey.
course.
And it was definitely very inspiring for a lot of people, especially people from non-math backgrounds. Like you have a live example in front of you, and Aditi is just one of our students who has done this. There are like so many students who have done 88, 87, 90 in quant with non-quant background. So please don't believe that GMAT quant is an engineer thing. It is not. Trust me, it is not. And we have a live example in front of us. So thank you so much, Aditi, for taking out the time and speaking to us and everyone else.
Of course.
Anyone else, anyone wants to connect with us on GMAT Wiz, you have the contact details here. I'm going to post our link as well. And there's, I think, everything in the description also if you want to connect with us for your GMAT journey. But I hope all of you take inspiration from Aditi, do your best. And one day, who knows, like you could be kind of seeing in a stream, sitting in a stream like Aditi and discussing, because I have myself recommended Aditi to look at some of other success
Oh
stories, and
yeah.
she has drawn so much inspiration from them. So definitely, like take the very good points and move forward.
Yes, yes, of
Thank
course.
you.
And thank you so much, Piyush sir, and entire GMAT Viz. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful platform, and you've been doing great work. I really, really respect the patience you have when dealing with all of us. Uh, it's amazing. I wouldn't have done it either any other way for sure.
It was a pleasure kind of working with you. Like Aditi didn't even tell me that she's taking that 695 attempt. After the
Oh yeah.
665 attempt, like she was quiet, and all of a sudden one day the text came that you had scored a 695. And my first question was, what was the quant score? And
Yeah.
when she told that she scored a 88, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I always envisioned. Like I always thought you'll get to a 90 one day, and like you proved me right. So I was super happy that for once, like we have the score that shows
Yeah.
Aditi that she was capable to get there. So I'm so glad to have been worked with you. You were like amazing. You picked up things really quickly. Like no matter what I taught you, you were always open for it, and I'm super happy. Let's like keep our fingers crossed for like the next stage and like
Yes,
get there
sir.
too. So
Yes,
thank you
sir.
so much. Thank you so much, Aditi.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. See you.